Good evening, everyone. I hope we're running live. The application says that we are okay and that we're running live. And I think we can start just a tad bit early with a little bit of a check system first. Let's see whether our Discord is available. And it's available. No guests at the moment, but they'll arrive soon enough. And the rest of our applications are ready. So with a little bit of an early start, I think we can begin today's session. Our third state of insecurity, because cybersecurity should not be an enterprise feature. Today we are going to talk about three sensitive items, difficult items, all of them very scary, some of them more theoretical, some of them very practical, and some very concerning, especially for parents. And me being a parent, I am very, very much concerned about this type of cyberbullying that becomes a criminal weapon these days. So, with that said, first of all, I would like to invite everyone to join our Discord, share ideas, investigate live issues, join CTFs. A bunch of people have joined and are working together, collaborating on many CTFs. I sometimes mute all the messages because people are working around the clock. Amazing stuff. Also, you can join the live podcast conversation. The Discord is now streaming also the audio of State of Insecurity podcast channel is streaming live on this podcast. So you can join the conversation, ask questions, add comments. This is our URL for the Discord. Of course, you can click on the QR, you can scan the QR code. Usually nobody does that for security reasons, but it's here if somebody does like to do it. So before we continue with the announced topics, I just want to flip over to our security dashboard on Beyond Machines, which is updated. We have a new risk assessment for February of 2025. As you can see, it's a little bit lower than the previous month. So good news overall. That means that a lot less critical events have happened. So the overall trend is reducing. What I want to share with you, some of the obvious things, most impacted industries still remaining in healthcare, government, finance as the top three, and education is also here. So those four are always going to be in the top five, together with IT, software, and technology. Top threats, obviously malware and ransomware, then unauthorized access or leaking credentials. System misconfiguration means just sharing databases and junk online without being protected. Third-party compromise, which is somebody else got hacked that processes your data. And finally, software vulnerabilities. So all the usual suspects. One thing that I want to share with you to warn you before we continue is this message of the week for this week for our state of insecurity is be very, very, very careful about our OAuth 2 applications. Those are very small applications. People are going to try to scam you with them. I'm going to show you how they look. Essentially, what I want to say is multi-factor doesn't help you. You can have everything, super secure passwords, multi-factor active and running, and you still will be hacked if you're allowing access to these OAuth applications. And this is how they look. So imagine somebody sending you a message or an invite to a calendar meeting or an invite to something, whatever, GitHub maybe sending you some message, and then you click on the link expecting something to happen, and suddenly you get this message, something like these two examples. One is for LinkedIn, saying this is Google Calendar for LinkedIn, essentially somebody trying to access your LinkedIn. And the second one is for Facebook, or for Twitter, sorry. Somebody trying to access your Twitter. What this is really is somebody wrote a program and then they registered that program in LinkedIn and in Twitter respectively as an external application. And now they're asking you as the user of LinkedIn or Twitter in these two examples to grant that application, that third-party application, access to your account. and I have marked in red the very dangerous pieces of access that these things usually ask for. Essentially, these follow and unfollow accounts for you, update your profile, manage delete lists, create delete posts for you, etc., or manage the organization, etc. So all this means essentially you are going to give this application permissions to act as you and to do things that you wouldn't do yourself. You are being hacked without ever giving out your password. This is a standard functionality of these systems. This is nothing new, but this is now being weaponized and abused instead of just asking for your username and password. So if you're getting an unexpected email or a message, be extremely careful on what you click. And if you click on something and something asks for permissions, stop, read very carefully what those permissions are, and ask yourself, why do you need these permissions? I mean, why would a Google Calendar for a meeting require that they create, modify, or delete posts or comments or reactions on your behalf? That makes absolutely zero sense, and you should never, ever, ever allow access to something like this. And this is the end of my rant for our OAuth applications. Be very careful with them. They are now being weaponized, really, for compromising of your data. That being said, let's continue to our regular programming, which means to our first topic of the day, AI dangerous territory. And I'm going to reference a lot of movies. First, two that are on my list: Person of Interest, the TV series, and Black Mirror. Both of them very scary and these days becoming more and more realistic. So what I want to talk to you about is this first. IBM internal memo wrote this in 1979, and the world is here in 2025. A computer can never be held accountable. Therefore, a computer must never make a final decision, a management decision. Remember this, repeat this to yourself, because this is where we are coming to with AI these days. So what is the current state of AI? Essentially, anything and everything is AI today. But that's not easy or nice thing to have, because AI implementing everywhere and anywhere, just being dumped into any product like this toothbrush here. Who in the world would want a toothbrush with AI? What benefit does it do? We brush our teeth twice a day, 3 times maybe. That's it. I don't need an AI for that. I have been doing that since I was a kid. I will do that forever. What the hell is AI for that? So they're just dumping it all over the place. And many implementations, especially for broad applications, for very commonly used and very frequently used functionalities, are still persistently flawed. Let me remind you that Google AI is still recommending people to eat rocks, several small rocks a day. That's maybe an extreme example, but there are many such flawed implementations or flawed decisions created by AI. Also, we have tremendous data grid. Hello, OpenAI. We all know that you're stealing copyrighted material so you can train your AIs. And now you're also asking everyone to allow you to steal, because that is the only way that you can progress. We are not idiots. We know that this is data grid. Because of data grid, there is now major distrust between customers and vendors on AI applications. And now everybody's doing their own AI because they can do better. No, you can't. Everybody's going to come to the same situation, and every implementation is going to be flawed. And finally, whoever is not doing all of the above is selling their data, or the data that they handle, as a profit option to fourth-party AIs. And the greatest example of this is Reddit, who is selling it for, I think, 60 million a year. No idea who they're selling it to, but I guess one of the big 4 or 5 processors. So this is the current state of AI. This is where we are. This is what we live in. But ask yourself, as a person, do you accept being auto-profiled by AI for sales, for something to be sold to you, for a job application, for a school, both application or evaluation of your work, For healthcare, whether you get healthcare. For crime, are you a criminal? Evaluated by a machine. For being accepted in society at all. And I have referenced here several examples from movies, and I'm going to let you and ask you to comment in the comments of this video, what are these movies and why would they be relevant to this? Believe me, they are. So why are we having this discussion? We all know that this is happening and there are concerns, etc., etc. Enter the EU AI Act. The longer regulation name is very long and I don't remember it by heart, but let's call it the EU AI Act. Is the first comprehensive legal framework for AI globally. Why is it important for us? It's a great reminder. It's a very technical and very long regulation, but apart from that, it's a great reminder, if we distill it to its essence, a very great reminder of how AI can abuse our human rights. So this is going to be the new GDPR, a gold standard for all regulations, for all AI regulations going forward into the future, and I think forever, because it is well written and it addresses very painful things from the outset. Whether they are going to be ignored, I'm sure they are. Whether they are going to be abused, I'm sure they are. But at the end of the day, it gives us a thought process of what we should not do and what we should be extremely terrified and extremely careful when we use AI. So with that said, these are the key boundaries of AI per the EU Act. EU Act advises never to go in the red zone, prohibited AI practices. And you can read this at your leisure, but let's summarize. Manipulative AI. AI that manipulates your decisions by subliminal techniques to distort your behavior. Exploitation of human vulnerabilities like age, disability, socioeconomic situation. Machines that abuse you because you are poor or you're old or you're too young or you're not able to make a proper decision. Social scoring. Machines that evaluate how good you are in the overall society and whether you get good or detrimental treatment. Biometric categorization. Based on your biometric data, somebody assumes whether you're, what is your religion, what is your sexual orientation, what is your health, etc., etc. And this is all done by a machine. Real-time biometric identification everywhere and anywhere. Do you really want just to walk down the street and any machine and any advertisement to just identify you and then push whatever they want in front of you? Risk assessment for crime prediction. Machine assessing you whether you're going to do a crime or whether you have made a crime, performed a crime just because of what they see in you and previous training. That's extremely unfortunate. Untargeted facial recognition, just creating facial recognition databases just because. And finally, recognizing emotion. A machine, a program that is going to infer emotion in workplace, education, or anywhere, and make decisions based on that. That is also a very terrible abuse of our rights, and all done by machines. Let's go back and remember a machine that still advises us to eat rocks. Not a great machine, and are we really going to allow that to govern what we decide about people? That is the section of never go there, and avoid going there are machines that run biometric identification and categorization, manage critical infrastructure, think water supply, power supply, financial systems, etc. Education and vocational evaluation. So processing your performance in school through AI. Screening for work and workforce management and employment, also done by AI. Is my boss an AI now? And how would that work? And what would that boss decide? For me to eat rocks once again? No, that doesn't work. That shouldn't work. We should be very careful about this. Assess for essential services, access to essential services, healthcare, insurance, credit scoring, based by AI. This is happening really in the world, and it is a terrible situation. And we have seen very bad decisions made by people allegedly because and AI was used in insurance, in health insurance scoring. Law enforcement, migration, and border management, same as the above. A machine decides whether you are breaking the law or whether you are able to access somewhere. Administration of justice and democratic processes. When will AI become justice, a judge, or an election decider? And again, will it tell us to eat rocks, figuratively? So if you're building an AI system, think about these things. Be extremely careful if you decide to go into any of these territories, and realistically, don't go into these territories and just leave it as an AI. This should never be an AI decision. This should be a human decision, and educated, considered human decisions. If you're a user of these systems, be extremely mindful and check whether something like this is happening, so you are aware when your rights essentially are at risk. Are you going to be able to do something? I'm not sure. That depends on the regulation, on the country, but in general, be mindful. These are the dangers that are in front of us. Again, ask yourself, as a person, as a parent, as a human being, and I know that somebody is going to chase profit here and say, no, I'm going to do it better than everyone else, and it's going to work perfectly. And that is going to work for you until the next time somebody else's AI actually evaluates you and you say it's not fair. So again, do you accept being given a higher price on a product by AI because they have evaluated you that you can pay a greater price? Being sold your data and yourself to data brokers after being scraped by AI, rejected for a job or evaluated and fired by AI, rejected for a school or evaluated by for schoolwork by AI, only by AI, not given healthcare or insurance by AI, flagged as a criminal by AI, flagged as socially unacceptable by AI. Pre-crime, it doesn't work, realistically. So be very careful about this. Again, IBM said it in 1979. Let's repeat it and let's remember it in 2025. The computer can never be held accountable. Therefore, a computer must never make the final decision. I hope this was interesting for you. It took me a while to research it, and it was a very interesting exercise for me. Happy to hear you in the comments, to read comments on this, and I'm very happy if I helped somebody who is now essentially working out on these topics. So let me just do a little bit of reset here, and continuing on with our session, we are now going to go to the third topic, to the second topic really. So from vulnerability to exploit in 6 days. From a theoretical exercise, now we switch to the practical discussion. And this is a real vulnerability, and I'm going to tell you about how it was exploited and how frighteningly easy it is to exploit, and how frighteningly quick attacks happen after the vulnerability has been published, which means that you should all consider quick patching discipline because it does make sense. So where we are is here. A hacker gang called Blind Eagle has targeted Colombian institutions and have hacked more than 1,600 victims during the campaign on December 19th, 2024. Now, apart from then attacking the Colombian institutions and exporting a bunch of data, researchers found a file containing account password pairs of over 1,600 people. This was then later deleted. What is really interesting is this. The attack was used with exploitation of CV 2024-43451, and they built the exploit only 6 days after the patch was released, essentially after the vulnerability was published online by Microsoft. So this is an extremely quick process for attackers. So be very, very, very mindful of this. And I urge you, patch early, patch quickly, especially after Windows Update. Now, what happened in terms of this vulnerability? I'm obviously going to share all this with you. But this is the vulnerability in its essence. So CV 2024-43451 essentially is a vulnerability that in the way Windows handles files that are called URL, link files. They have an extension URL. This is the content of this file. Here is one example of this content of the file. Essentially, it's a text file. But in that text file, you can say, this is a shortcut. And if you double click, it will open a file that is usually on your computer. However, this file can contain anything, including a file that is somewhere else. Now, this is a broken version of the file, so you don't immediately get attacked. But the real file, this is a real exploit example, was just linking to some server somewhere, and then some sort of masking mechanism, and then some file. And then the rest of it is more details, and I'm going to go back to this icon, etc. later. But what it means is you click on this file, you try to open it, you are not opening just the local file, you're opening this file that is remotely available. What is even more terrifying, and this is the vulnerability, you don't have to double click the file for the vulnerability to work. You can just right click, and here is another example here. So you can just literally right click or move around. So a single right click in all versions, deleting the file by using the delete file, dragging the file in another folder. So all it takes is you to touch the file with a mouse or with your Windows control, and it will start reading the file and it will start accessing that remote program. It will not download it until you double click it, but you're not safe with that, because just by clicking, just by touching the file, that requests that to this file path happens, and in that request, your Windows will send out your NTLM version 2 hash. The NTLM version 2 hash of a Windows user, imagine it's a signature of your password. It's a key, a non-reversible key that is generated when you have logged in, and it is sent around to the rest of the systems to identify you as the proper user without ever sharing your username and password. Ideally, it is secure enough as long as you control that hash and you don't share it around. But when you click on this specific exploit, your Windows will ping that particular server, and in that ping, in that request, they are going to also send your NTLM version 2 hash. So the attackers on the receiving end will capture that and then be able to pass it again to a Windows server, to a computer that you control, or they assume you control, with an attack called pass the hash. I'm not going to show it here, but you can Google it. It's very easy to read up on it and even to try it out. So they can then use pass the hash, essentially becoming you. And they can do all this simply because a vulnerability exists in Windows that enables an attacker just to send a file that is called a URL, that has an extension URL, and all you have to do is touch it. And here is a breakdown of how the attack happened. This is an analysis of an attack that happened to Ukraine. The attacker sent out a zip file with some story, and there were two files in that zip. One is a PDF, a real PDF, and something called a URL. If you extract it, the PDF is just a PDF, nothing special there, but the URL is this item or link, etc. And now if you decide to, you can even manipulate with this icon file line, you can even make it look like, here it is, like a local file, like a local folder. The icon won't even be that of a external link. So you're not even recognizing, the attacker can do this and you won't even recognize what the type of file is until you start touching it, until you start clicking on it, either right click or delete or do whatever. It is a very dangerous attack because you're going to say, but I didn't open it, so I'm safe. That was the vulnerability. You didn't have to open it. in order for the attack to happen. It is terrible. It is very, very dangerous. And it is something that has happened. And coming back to our Blind Eagle attack, they weaponized it. They built this entire attack mechanism in 6 days. And then they were able to attack specifically Colombia and Ecuador, obviously Ukraine, everybody else. So my message here is this is a great reason why you should patch early and maintain patch discipline, because I know it's a hassle, and I know it's difficult, and I know you don't want to wait. And at the end of the day, that is exactly what the hackers are relying upon. They want you not to wait, and they want you to wait. They want you to be lazy. They want you to give them time to prepare an attack, and they don't need a lot of time. 6 days. Sometimes it can be even quicker. So quick patching discipline makes sense. Please do the discipline. And our final topic. So let me see. Yeah, and we're on our final topic. And the most painful for me personally as a parent, cyberbullying now becomes a criminal weapon. Please educate your children on phishing risks, on social engineering, on the risks of downloading files, because cyber criminals will target them to expand their attacks. They will essentially bully them. They will extort them. This is a real story, and this I processed it today. This happened in a United States school, Tees Valley. I'm sorry if I butcher the name, whether it's Tees or Tees, I'm not sure. Tees Valley Christian School. What happened? The school was hit by a ransomware attack. But after the ransomware attack happened, forensics obviously got involved. There was an investigation, and they found out that a student actually downloaded and executed the malware program on a school computer. They asked him why. Obviously, it's a kid. Why did you do this? And the kid then explained that before that, his personal Gmail account and his Discord were hacked, probably through social engineering or through password recycling, through some sort of phishing. And then the criminals threatened the kid. They threatened him that they're going to use his Gmail account, which they hacked and now control, to send out a hit list. Essentially, a hit list in the context of schools today is somebody sending out a student who is a bully, sending out a list of other children who should be bothered or bullied by a larger group. So if a student is captured sending out a hit list, he's obviously going to be labeled as a bully, and the school have a zero tolerance on this. So he may be even penalized at school or kicked out of school, or many terrible things that can happen to that kid. And that kid obviously never thought this through, that this other action is much more terrible, apart from going to the school and to his parents and say, I got hacked and now they're extorting me. Please help me. And that was the right thing to do. Unfortunately, the kid was scared, and whoever is doing this thing, the crime gang, was quite successful at extorting, at threatening a child. So they are going to weaponize a child. They don't care. And what they did in the end is they triggered a ransomware in a school. Realistically, not too much. They are going to try to extort the school. I'm not really sure that this is going to amount to too much money for them, because they are not going to have, nobody's going to pay right now after all this is being publicized. But at the end of the day, they would have stolen some data. So coming back to our original topic, children are going to be targeted. Children are targeted by criminals as a weapon. They are going to threaten them. They are going to extort them. They are going to abuse them to extend their attack, to proceed with the attack going forward, to get to something more profitable, to get to something that is more that has bigger impact and that they can earn a lot of money from. So coming back to our original message, please sit down with your children and talk to them about phishing, about downloading games or programs from anywhere. There is no such thing as free lunch today. There are no benign hackers. Topics like or sentences like "I know what I'm doing. I have been doing this for a long while. I know where to download pirated software from" are just famous last words. Because every time somebody says "I know what I'm doing," the next thing is "Oh shit, I got hacked." So please sit down, talk to your children, show them that this happens, ask them to be very careful about their passwords, ask them to activate second factor authentication, ask them to be very careful about messages and surprises and pressures or urgent things that they don't recognize, and ask them to talk to you about this, because children are going to be scared and they're going to be ashamed, and criminals are going to weaponize it. As a parent, this comes very close to home for me, because I don't want my child to be abused, and nobody does. So please, I'm happy to do more. I'm happy to even create a set of slides or a special podcast just for that. Just ping me in the comments of this video. I'm happy to work on that if you do want this to happen. But please, let's work together to educate our children so they are not the targets. And with that, that was our last topic of the day. I'm going to switch to our Discord. If somebody wants to join with a topic or with an idea or a comment, or just tell me that I'm wrong about something, or if this is not, then I'm going to switch back to our final session, final slide. And thank you, everyone. So this was our third podcast, obviously, with a little bit of errors. So again, state of insecurity, episode 3, because cybersecurity should not be an enterprise feature. I hope this was interesting for everyone, and I thank everyone for watching. We are happy to take up any comments and to expand on any of these topics further. Just write us in the comments. Thank you all, and goodbye.